Okay.
Hey, bud, what's going on?
It's 11 o'clock.
Can you hear me?
You're really quiet.
There. I think I can hear you now. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you're really quiet.
Oh, okay. I bet let's switch on this stuff. Microphone. I need microphone. There we go.
There you go. We can hear you now.
Yeah. I can take on need to. How's it going?
Oh, it's going. Getting my shop done bit by bit.
Yeah.
The whole shop is getting remodeled, and it's a pain in the butt.
How's that table coming? I saw that table that pulls out. That's sweet.
That's what I'm on right here, right now.
Nice. That's awesome.
And you can see where it slides in here and the pivots. But yeah, that distance right here that I'm working on, that's only halfway out. It'll actually pull out 6 feet.
So do you pull it out, and then do you have like a table saw on the other side so you can do like cut full ply on it and whatnot?
That's kind of the idea. That's kind of the idea later on. If I wanted to, you can see where I have my table saw back there behind everything, right?
Yeah, okay, I see.
So what I'll be able to do, my table saw is on wheels. So if I wanted to, I can push down on the things that lift it up, slide it right over to this table, level everything out, get it even, and I can go ahead and just cut. Then I can slide this table in, move my table saw back, and I'm done.
Yeah, and it's out of the way. That's nice.
Yeah, I used to cut all that crap, well, actually for a while here, I still am. You put a couple of sawhorses up with some of that foam and then put the board on top of it and cut across it. That's just a pain in the butt.
Oh yeah, with like a skill saw, holding the skill saw. Yeah, that's all I have. So I have a chop saw, and then I have a skill saw. I want a table saw so I can cut like full ply like that, because it's such a hassle. And I have one that's really cool. It has like a laser on it too, so like I can follow a line on it, but it's still just got just a little bit, just doing it by hand. It just has a little bit of like waviness, and my hands aren't quite that steady to get it.
Just need to use so like Craig has a sled that clamps onto the bottom of your skill saw. And then you clamp this rail onto the board, and it measure, and then you clamp this rail onto your board, and your skill saw, that jig that attaches to it, sits right in that rail, and then you just slide it across.
Ah, that's cool. Yeah, I've seen some weird almost like table saws that are made from skill saws, and I thought about doing that, but that just seemed way too dangerous for me to try to like rig up my skill saw like that. It's like I just need to get a nice skill saw, or like it's one of my Christmas presents I want to give for myself is like get on Facebook Marketplace and try to find a used one.
Yeah, there's the thing that I'm talking about for your skill saw, the Craig unit. It's on Black Friday deal right now at Lowe's for $68. It's cheap as hell.
It's called Craig.
Yeah, it's either a Craig AccuCut. Yeah, I think it's the Craig AccuCut. But it comes with a plate.
This rip cut?
Yeah, it just attached. Well, one is the rip cut. It's designed, it's got like an L piece, and it slides down the edge of your board. And then they got another one, I think it's called AccuCut, that it just lays down on a board anywhere. It'll go the length of a 4x8. You can put 2 rails together.
AccuCut.
So you can cut a full length of an 4x8, not just cross cut. And it just put that little clamp. Yeah, you put that little jig on the bottom of your skill saw. Yeah. And anytime you go to cut, you just lay that rail anywhere you want, and then your skill saw sits in it and slides along it.
Have you used it?
Yeah.
Is that what you use? Yeah.
Yeah, I have one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this looks like exactly what I need as a stopgap for sure.
It's Craig's version of a plunge cut saw. You know what a plunge cut is?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, look up a plunge cut. You'll see what I mean. It's what professionals use to cut large pieces of plywood.
Plunge cut saw. Okay, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, where you put the saw on a rail.
It goes down.
Plunges down, then you slide it, right? Well, Craig has what they call the AccuCut system, or I can't remember what it is. They have, the adaptive cutting system. That friggin' thing is like $800. That comes with a plunge saw, but that AccuCut, that little rail thing I'm telling you about, that works just as great.
Yeah, you're right. It's only $40 right now. So
there you go. You can't beat that. And then you can get on Amazon and you can buy an additional rail for like $35.
And then you can do the whole ply.
Each rail is 4 foot long. So if you have 2 rails, you got an 8 foot long rail, and they connect together. They have these teeth with Allen wrenches underneath. You connect them and they stay perfectly square straight.
That'd be perfect. Then I can lay it on this table that I'm at, because I can lay a 4x8 on it, and then I can just like cut on the edge of it.
Yep. So, and then you can just go ahead and lay down a piece of foam or something, throw the board on top of it, lay it out and cut it, and it'll be straight.
Yeah,
okay. Great. Where is this on sale at?
On Lowe's. Here you go. I'll
Lowe's.
Yeah, we're talking about it here. I'll put it on here in the I just looked it up.
Yeah,
at those Black Friday deals. There you go. That's
yeah, I've been looking at those for a while, but my concern is my circular saw is my grandfather's. So it's a 1970s Sears Craftsman.
Those are, just to let you know.
Some of my grandpa's tools too.
Hold on, just to let you know, those are usually the best. Yeah, I'm serious. The skill saws you get today, unless you spend upwards of $300 and get a worm drive saw, most skill saws, the DeWalt's, Makitas, whatever, they'll last you a year and a half, 2 years. But the old Craftsmans, the old systems, and it's like they're made out of cast iron or something. They're heavy as hell,
like
silver,
full steel. Yeah,
right? Yeah, those things run forever. I would just send it into Craftsman. They will fix that for you. If you have a problem with the motor, send it to Craftsman. They will fix it.
Okay.
I know some of those old routers too. They'll work forever as well. Like the old routers from the 60s and 70s that they're made to last forever and then to be repaired. So yeah.
Like my table saw here, it has a cast iron top, but the wings on the side of it are stamped steel. So it's not like a cast iron and then ground flat, the wings, right? In the old days, like the old Craftsmans you used to get, the wings on both sides were cast iron ground. So you had, I don't know, a 5-foot deck by 3.5-foot deck that was solid ground cast iron. And you didn't have to worry about squaring shit up because that stuff, you'd bolt it together and it would square itself, right? It was so thick and heavy. But this stuff you get today, and heck, I paid, I want to say $600, $700 for my table saw. Yeah, it's just stamped steel. It took me 2 days to get that thing square to where it cut just right. And then I spent another $150 and added a digital gauge on the rail. So now I can measure down into decimals of millimeters if I want to, but that's just my preference.
Well, hey y'all, we're just talking about chopping wood and cutting wood up for Bob and Jan. So this is definitely just a kind of a free-for-all Q&A session to help you get cutting on your M2 or laser or 3D printer or whatever you got working on. So yeah, y'all have any questions or anything we can help you with? I'm Drew from MakerMade, by the way.
I was going to demo the new frame I made. If you guys, whenever everybody's ready.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Jen.
I think you know me already. I'm Pepe. Pepe is my nickname. Hello. And yes, I have really difficulties here to get a carbon copy of which I already built. Let me switch the camera just a second. So some of you already have seen what I built by hand. This is handmade. Yes, this is for a camping van. This is the cooker station, and yes, and I would like to do this in yes with the CNC. I would like to start a project. Oh, sorry, this is my dog behind. And yes, and I would like to start a business with camping van furnitures. Yes, and this is now what I rebuilt with the M2. And in the past, I had really issues. You know, I had issues with the tolerances. And yes, I could solve it. I use Fusion 360, and I use also the Maslow post processor, and it works really fine. But in the meanwhile, I try to produce it again. So this is working. But the third one, or the second from Maslow, it doesn't work anymore, and I don't know exactly where are the issues. So maybe I have to check again what maybe some tolerances or measurements are not okay, because I changed everything. At first yes, the ideas from your side helped me really find I fix it, the board on the bottom, and yes, maybe you can see it here. I think now the angle is also in parallel to the machine, and but really I don't know exactly where's the issue, because really from some small cutouts, like for example, like that. Mm-hmm. Yes, I have. It's just yes, 20 to 50 millimeters. I have really issues to get right results.
Yeah, so Jan, can you pan back? I want to see your whole system there.
Okay. Set up. Yeah.
Keep going. I want to see the top beam as well. Okay. So first of all, if you want better accuracy, it looks like you got a 10-foot top beam on there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go to the 12-foot top beam with the longer.
No, it's not. It's not 12 foot. It's 10 foot.
I know, but to get better accuracy, you can put a 12-foot top beam up there and buy another set of chains from MakerMade, and it'll increase your accuracy.
Okay.
Yeah, and it can help with like getting really dialed in with a couple more millimeters of having just more of an angle for the chains to work on. So it's higher up, and then that beam is farther across. So it'll give you more accuracy, especially down in the corners, like in the bottom lower corners. It'll help a lot with that. So if you're looking to really tune in on something that's that accurate, that is probably the best bet for you to work on, because it sounds like you're pretty close. You're just trying to get it within like a few millimeters. Is that kind of where you're trying to get the target accuracy?
Sorry, could you repeat? I'm sorry.
Yes. Is that within a couple of millimeters, like 1 to 2 millimeters? Is that where you're trying to get your accuracy?
Yes. Sometimes it's yes, around one millimeter. Yes. So it's for example, instead of 400, it's 399 or something like that.
Oh, that's good then. Yeah, that's great. If you're within 1 millimeter, that's awesome. So what problems are you having with the accuracy then? Is it not repeating the cuts well, or what?
It's I don't know how to show it. Just a second.
I think what he said earlier was that he doesn't have consistency.
Yes.
So one time it'll be plus or minus 1 or 2 millimeters. So he can cut the same part over and over, and he doesn't get a consistent sized part. So remember that accuracy is within 1 millimeter, but that's plus or minus a millimeter.
Yeah.
And so that means you can be anywhere in a 2 millimeter radius, off or low or high. So 1 millimeter sounds great, but that's plus or minus 1 millimeter. So that means you've got a 2 millimeter gap in there, right?
Yes, like that. This should be 40 to 40 millimeters, and it is 41 to 41. And these the circles are 25, and they are 26. And
yep, that's your 1 millimeter. That's your 1 millimeter. You got it. So you need to dial in your system better, and I think you'll get that with that 12-foot top beam. But here's another pro tip for you. When you're cutting those really small pieces, slow your router down, or slow your movement, your inches per minute or millimeters per minute. Slow that down and only cut those tiny parts right in the middle of your
okay, right, okay.
Yeah,
that's what I was
right in the center is where you have the best accuracy based on the triangulation calculation that this whole thing is run on, right? Right in the center of that board is where you have optimal calibration. So any little parts, that's where you want to cut them, not up or down. Try to cut those in that center. And then if that doesn't work for you, then go ahead and move to the larger top beam. The only thing you'd probably have to do is, it looks like you got some wood there that you'd have to add to the ends. Right now you have a 10-foot, and that means you got 1 foot extra sticking out on your 4x8, right? You got an 8-foot long board, you've got a 10-foot beam. Well, you're going to a 12-foot, so that means you need 2 foot on sticking out on each end, wider than your board. So if you can do that with some scrap wood laying around there, just lengthen it out. Make sure you got 2 foot from the edge of your cut board or your waste board. Measure out 2 feet. You want to have 2 feet this way, and on the other side 2 feet that way.
Okay.
And then you'll have to have, I think they're 15-foot chains from MakerMade. I think that's what they are. They're the 15-foot chains. That
so I need some new.
Will just give you that length to be able to cut it. And
I need some new chains.
Yeah, because
longer.
now the chains won't be long enough to go end to end on the board, and I think they're 15-foot chains instead of the 11. I think they're 11-foot chains on a standard setup, right?
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend too. And if you try to cut those circles, especially in the bottom corners, then the chain slack, when it's cutting down there, it's not going to give you that type of accuracy. So as Casey was saying, if you're looking to really get the best accuracy possible, right in the exact center is where you want to be cutting those out. And this machine's made to make really big, so it's not going to be as accurate as like a tabletop CNC machine, where it's going to get you down into those tolerances as, a 1/10 of a millimeter or something like that. Just so you know, it's made to make really large stuff and to make it pretty close to being accurate, but it's not going to get it dialed in is going to take a lot of work. Just so you know, if you're trying to get into like under a millimeter in accuracy, you can get it to a millimeter, but if you're trying to get it under a millimeter, it's going to take a bunch. You can do it, but it's going to take a lot of work and practice.
And I was going to add, I do a lot of little detail stuff, but nothing that has to be like millimeter accurate. Mine's a lot of detail without needing the accuracy. But something I've noticed is that when I do repetitive cuts across my board, they change a little bit as you move along. And so if you're wanting that consistent cut, you want to cut that same piece in that same spot. So if you find that you've got accuracy in one location of your board that you really like for a specific cut, continue to put your material there and keep cutting in that location. And I bet you'll have much better results than what you are right now.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Bob? Go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, just one further question. Which tool you're using? Sorry, I don't get which bit you're using, a down cut bit or an up cut? Which is the best one for?
So for your are you selling those camper van stoves and stuff? You sell those, right? It's not just for you, correct?
Yes, this is the idea in the future, but at first I would.
So a down cut bit, think of your board like this, right? A down cut bit cuts down. So what it does is you won't get any splintering on the top of your plywood. An upcut bit, you'll get some tear out on the top of your
tear outs on the top. Yes,
yeah.
Okay.
A compression bit cuts up and down at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I found a compression bit doesn't last as long, and I see it's a lot louder for some reason. I think it just because of the way the grooves are designed on the bit. But if you're selling your product, I do strictly a down cut bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now when you go to cut through the backside, if you don't go too far, you won't have blowout. But if you cut an 1/8 of an inch through or 5 millimeters through your board, you can have blowout on the backside whenever you cut out. So yeah, you got to be careful, right? It's all about appearance. If you're selling your product, it's about appearance. So use a down cut spiral bit. That's what I would use.
So I got a question about that.
Speeds. Oh, go ahead.
I was going
Uh-oh.
Dustin froze on us there.
I did freeze. Are you using, what type of material are you using on that camper stove?
Plywood.
Plywood? Okay.
Like plywood.
I couldn't tell if it was plywood or MDF. And I was going to say, if it's MDF, what about using a straight bit instead?
You can use a straight bit. So here's my rule of thumb I use in my shop. I use a straight bit if I'm going to cut very, very dense wood. So if I'm cutting oaks or maples or something like that, I'll use a straight bit before I use an up and down bit because it doesn't splinter. And I'll also use a straight bit on polymers, plastics. So Lexan and other different types of plastics. I'll just use a 2-fluted straight bit.
Okay.
So super hard materials, just a straight bit's all you need. Anything that will tear apart, like plywood, where it is, that, because it's layered, then you want a down bit on that. Or if you're just cutting soft pine, sometimes that stuff splinters.
See, I've had some problems with down cuts on plywood where it just, the bit wears out faster than I feel like it should. And upcuts work better for me personally. Well, so I have that burring, but they last longer.
So there's another reason for that. It's the quality of the plywood you buy. Remember, a good quality plywood has up to 8 to 10 layers in like a 3/4 inch. That means the thickness of the adhesive between each layer is very thin. The cheaper plywood will have like 5 ply. It'll be 5 layers. That means the glue in between is a lot thicker. And in most cases, I've found it's uneven. So my M2 will be running along and you'll hear it cutting, and then it'll go, or it hit a big chunk of epoxy somewhere, right? And that epoxy, it tears up your bit, something fierce.
The 5 layer is all I've been able to find for like the last 6 months. I've not been able to find anything better than that. So I guess that's why I've been using upcuts.
So just so you guys know, I'm in the process. I have a design. I'm going to build my own glue up table using little pneumatic cylinders I got off of eBay or off of Amazon. And I can buy 3/4 inch white pine. I can buy that all over the place, but my plywood around here is still really expensive and good quality is hard to find. So I'm going to start making my own. I'm just going to do glue ups. And then I can throw them on the thing and surface them, make them perfectly flat. And I'll start doing that.
You think that's going to be cheaper?
Yeah. Because I mean, you wasn't on here a little bit ago, but I was telling Drew, I'm in the middle of completely remodeling my shop. So I've been buying, 1x10s and 1x3s and 1x6s left and right. But if I go to buy one sheet of 3/4 inch plywood, $80.
Oh, wow.
And it's crappy plywood.
Wow.
Same here.
I tell you what, we've got a local mill. We've got several local mills, and one of them does pine. But the problem is it's not kiln dried. So I got to come up with a solution for that. But man, that guy's dirt cheap. I can pay $170 some odd for his wood, comparable for the same 5 projects that cost me $500 in cedar. So
dude, it's almost cheap enough it's almost good enough price to build your own kiln, just a
Yes.
10 foot by 10 foot. And
Exactly.
no, I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
I know.
I've got a neighbor that did that. He just bought a bunch of those, the kind of brick. I can't remember what. Anyway,
Like you'd have a wood fired like pizza oven, like that kind of
Right.
brick.
well, no, what he did was he built it was 10 foot long on the inside, so he can put 10-foot boards in it. And he buys them. We have a local place here that they will mill your wood, but it's fresh out of a tree. It's not dried.
Right.
So he made his own kiln in his garage, and those propane heaters that you can buy that have flame that comes out of the end of them, he ran a metal duct so it goes over and into it. And that's what he uses. He opens the top, stacks his boards in there, puts little things in between them to let the air flow through. And he put a vent on the inside, other end, and he flips on that propane heater, and it'll get, I don't know, 90 degrees in there. And he'll run through a bottle of propane on that. And those boards are pretty good.
So just one bottle, how many days that usually take?
It depends on how high he turns up the flame, right?
Okay.
He likes to, he has a thermometer on his. He built a little control module out of an Arduino, and he runs that propane bottle. He gets about a day out of it.
Okay.
But then once that day is done, he seals it and just lets it sit and slowly cool. Remember, that brick gets hot.
Yeah.
So that brick retains the heat for over a day or two before it cools down.
Right.
What
Okay.
he's got works. I think he said he put a couple $100 into it.
Yeah, I see, Casey. I'm gonna do the exact same thing as you can see here. I'm gonna be doing that. I'm gonna be milling my own wood, and I'm working on a shed in the back to put exactly what you're talking about. So that's exactly what I'm working on.
Awesome.
There you go. Cut it
Yes,
in
sir.
first, then kiln dry it.
Yeah,
Yep,
I mean,
I know.
wood is so expensive and hard to get. I mean, I've got a bunch of reclaimed stuff that we'll just find if somebody's doing projects. People put it on. I mean, one thing you can do is like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and stuff. And I know Mike's done that as well. Is just watch for people that are giving away wood, and then yeah, you can reclaim it and clean it up and rock and roll with it. I've done that.
I've got one project I started to cut last night that I was going to either show you or ask for some guidance on, but this guy gave me about 10 boxes of that laminate flooring, and it has a really cool real wood on top. And I'm new to all this, and this is like my second project. I was trying to make about a 36-inch clock, and man, it looks good, but it's all, interlocked and all that kind of stuff. So I'm having issues with my Z-axis that I was going to talk to somebody about on Facebook or on this today. So
Yeah, what's up? So was it like, is it not plunging like you want, or
right? And and it seems like on the last meeting or two ago, somebody mentioned this, that if you didn't have your G code converted to millimeter versus an inch, that you might run into a problem. Was that the Z issue that you were talking about?
Anything.
Okay. Well, let me explain what's going on, and maybe you can tell me if that's what it is, because I'm using VCarve. Whenever I plug in my dimensions, for my project and everything at the very beginning, I am using inches. Let me make sure on that. But anyway, my plunge on my Z seems very aggressive. So whenever I zero out the Z, I'm having to come up about 1/8 of an inch, but I'm cutting through about, I don't know, 0.38. And I put all those measurements into my software VCarve, and it just seems like it just slams down if I zero it to the wood about 1/4 inch in. Then second pass, it goes another 1/4 inch in. So something's slightly off, but it seems like if I Z it, just about 1/4 inch higher, it works okay.
Have you ever calibrated your Z?
Yeah.
I don't think I have. I tried to calibrate the whole machine. I went through the whole process, and then I somebody had mentioned it. Well, draw 10, 20, 30, 40, left, right, up, and down. And I was really good out to about 10 inches. 20 inches, I was off by about 1/8 of an inch, and then it just kind of compounded in 1/8 inch increments from there. But as far as the Z, I don't recall calibrating the Z.
So I'm sending you, I'm putting a thing in the text here. I have a specific video on my YouTube on how to do that with a set of digital calipers.
Perfect.
And you need to dial that thing in. I can get down to, 0.25 millimeter accuracy.
Oh, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I need that. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Casey.
But yeah, other than that, man, I tell you what, I'm impressed. I went through, I say this is my second project, but I made a couple of Sasquatches the other day, you know, just being silly, and some ornament stuff and all that. But the only issue I really had was that Z, just that plunge rate was way too aggressive. So, but man, I tell you what, I'm digging this thing. I'm tempted to quit my day job.
Yeah, out of
But
curiosity.
you know, I work from home, so it really sucks. And you know, where I'm at out here, you can see it in the back. I got an office here and then a shop on the other side. So I'm constantly back and forth between work and this kind of stuff. So I probably should just quit.
Hey Bob, question
Well,
on
that's great.
the
I'm glad you've been enjoying it.
yeah, question on your plunge rate. Do you what is the speed of the plunge rate that you're doing on that?
That's a good question. And I looked at that last night. You know, I left everything at 40 inches per minute, or whatever that millimeter conversion was, like 1016. And I left it at 1016 on the plunge as well in the beginning. And then I said, okay, let's go back and divide that by 2 just to see if it's any better. But I don't think that the actual speed of it going down is causing the issue. It's the depth that it's going.
It's just how much it's trying to eat through as it goes down.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
gotcha.
it's just aggressive.
Well, what's happening is your board's here and you go through and you zero your bit to your board. Then
Right.
it pulls back a little bit and you go ahead and get everything ready. You hit play and it says from here down 0.038, whatever you said it was, right? That you're trying to cut. It's trying to plunge down to that first level of your cut. But because your Z hasn't been calibrated, it's going, you know, this far is 0.38. So
Exactly.
that's what's happening. And then on top of that, you might have your travel set at, I don't know, 25 inches per minute is, I'm guessing, what you're trying to use. So now you're trying to cut at double your depth,
Right,
at 25 inches per minute. And I guarantee you, your bits are probably a darkish brown by now. They're probably starting to burn up. They're not as sharp as they used to be, right?
yeah.
So that's probably what's happened. You just need to really dial in that Z axis. And
Okay.
that video, just look up 2 tankards on YouTube, and there is a specific video on there, and it'll show you. You have to take your time. That's all. People will say, "Oh, I measured it twice and it was pretty good." I measured mine 10 or 15 times, resetting it.
Yeah.
And you can get it down to less than a millimeter of accuracy.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
I was going to say, I also bought a metric tape ruler or measuring tape to measure everything. So I'm not even using inches when I'm doing my calibration. I'm doing metric.
I thought about doing that too. It's just, but I'm big into Excel, so it's just, I can go either way. But
yeah,
It
when you
helps a lot to do
calibrate
everything in millimeters.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, if unless your measuring tape goes down to like 30 seconds of an inch, the metric gives you more granularity in the measurements than a standard inch does.
yeah,
everything I design and build is in millimeters. That way, whenever I load it into Makerverse tends to like millimeters better.
Yeah.
And that's just what I do. That way I've had that problem. I do a lot of cabinets and furniture, and I would load drawings from Google SketchUp, and I would load them into Makerverse or into Easel, and then Easel would convert them. And whenever I'd put them into there, they were like 6 inches smaller than normal. So I found out, I just redesigned the thing in millimeters and it all worked fine.
Yeah, that's cool. But no, I'm having a blast with it, and I think I just need to take a few weeks of vacation and get some stuff knocked out. So, but no, I mean, for the most part, it was really easy to set up. Makerverse is pretty cut and dry. Haven't really had any issues with that. So, getting VCarve set up, I didn't really realize that Makerverse would accept G code. I thought it was like a different file format, but I don't know. Last night I got some weird odd message on Makerverse saying that my G code was not correct. It actually said it's missing the expected G code word value or numeric value format is not valid. So I'm going to have to figure out what's going on in VCarve with that. So, but yeah, for the most part, it's great, man. I love it.
Awesome.
So Drew,
Yeah.
do you mind if I show this frame real quick?
Well, do we have it? Yeah. Do we have any more
Anybody
questions?
else? Anybody else
Anybody have
any
any questions about their M2? And then, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I was going to say real quick on Pepe's issue with repeatability on that. Did you all talk about sled weight at all? Because to me, there's a chance when you're getting down to that 1 millimeter range of needing that level of repeatability, just getting that sled weight from like 20, 25 pounds up to like 30, 35 pounds can help reduce a little bit of that slop that can come into play. I don't know if you all discussed that at all, but just 2 cents there. But I definitely want to see cases.
Yeah. And when you do that too, update it in Makerverse when you update your sled weight. Convert it to newtons and then update it in Makerverse to where what your sled weight exactly is. So don't just add the weight, but actually change it in Makerverse as well in the calibration tab.
100%.
Yes, I did it like that. I just introduced the right weight of the sled.
You introduce some additional weight?
No, I just the real weight. I introduced the real weight. Is it right or?
It needs to be exactly. That will help you with accuracy. If you're like saying exactly what the weight is, not just the default value, but actually weighing your sled, it will help.
Yeah,
for sure.
Up the weight and then
Patrick said,
enter it
you can
into
add that
Makerverse.
extra weight.
Yeah, get it about 30 pounds or so, and then Drew's right. Make sure you account for that in the software too. But yeah, adding some weight could help reduce a little bit of that slack, just depending. It may not be the only answer, but all these things should help. Cool.
But I have just a second. I have just around 25 pound.
Yeah.
I mean,
so actually weigh it. Yeah. And get the real weight.
Yeah, get the real weight added in there, but I would recommend upping that to about 30 pounds as an additional bit of, I don't know. I've just seen that. I know, like Lauren, if he was on here, he would recommend that he puts his at like 32 pounds. Right. So just another option.
So it's better for if I understood it right, it's better to use here more heavier pieces.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Add more weight. So if you think about it, right, you know, you've got those chains mounted to those carriage brackets right there, and it's not like a fixed gantry, right? There's nothing like preventing back motion, or, you know, it's gravity fed, right? So I would just say that, you know, when you add weight to it, it's going to reduce the chance for it to rebound in any sort of way at any point, right?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, an additional weight, as long as it's hanging down like that, will also reduce the rotation of the sled while it's moving around.
Exactly. Yep.
Because the sled can rotate on its center axis as it's cutting. And if you put more weight on the bottom, it's going to prevent it from doing that, because it's like a long lever arm. You're trying to pull it, right?
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Then yeah, if anybody has any more questions, let's see it, Casey. That sounds awesome. Let's check it out.
You guys see this? Down on my table here, I got too much junk. Can you guys see the whole design there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that a laser?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the 2.5 watt. So the way I designed this is it's a single frame that is solid attached to the top beam up here, and the top beam is on hinged brackets. So the design of the MakerMade system says that the top beam and the cutting surface both need to be at 15-degree angles. And kind of like what we were just talking about with the length of the top beam, making sure it was there, making sure your bottom was at 15 degrees. So I just decided to connect the two. So I designed this mini frame, and the way it works to ensure that I get my 15-degree angle every time is everything is connected like this. I reach down, grab, and on the back, I have two legs that pop out. There. 15 degrees every time. And then whenever I want to pack it up, I want to put it back up against the wall. I just have brackets in the bottom that have locking pins in them. Like that.
That's awesome. And what's the work area?
This one right here is, again, I made it out of scrap wood because shit's so expensive these days. So it used to be, that whole thing used to be a work table. But it's, I want to say 42 by 50 something, the work surface. So
Okay.
it's right around 48 by 48, 4x4.
Okay.
How's the vibration when those legs are on there, since it's not like attached on the bottom? Do you see it like moving or anything like that while it's cutting, or do you kind of compensate for that with more sled weight?
No, it doesn't move.
Doesn't move? That's awesome.
No, as long as my wood was a little warped, it's got lots of holes and screw holes and everything all over in it. So some of the beams were a little messed up. So whenever I would lay it up against the wall, the whole bed was warped. So 1 foot was touching, 1 foot wasn't. So yeah, that would definitely be bad. But my plan is now to make this out of something more solid. But
Sure.
you also see I inverted the motors at the top. Can you guys see
Ask
that?
about that, yeah.
So to prevent the nail from being pulled out, there's some debate on whether or not the nail is a safety device. But the reality is, if you watch your sled and if something's going wrong, you pause it or you stop it, you wouldn't have that problem, right? That you don't have that runaway and you come out and you find out the nail's been pulled out. But what I do have is on the old traditional design where the motor's up at the top and you run your chain from here over to the sprocket, back over to the motor and down. Sometimes when you get to the top or you start getting to those bottom corners, the chain angle starts to move. And I've seen to where my chain starts rubbing where that chain is nailed into that 2x4. So I just inverted them. That way the chains can never hit. And by putting in I just use a 3/16 bolt with 3 washers on it with a lock nut. I wrap the chain around it. I tighten the bolt down. Then that way I can never cross my chains. It'll never happen. So
How's
I don't
the
know.
accuracy been? Oh, go ahead.
The accuracy, I was able to dial it in just like regular 1 millimeter, right? So, I mean, it's no different. It's the same. It's the same as your other sled or your other frame. I would say I'm not sure if the M2 could really get less than a single millimeter, right? It's not designed for super decimal point accuracy. It's designed, like you said, for big cuts. But on a mini frame like this, getting down to 1 millimeter with a longer top beam on it, I can get to all 4 corners and it works fine.
Hey, Casey, what is your total workspace for that size? And is it a 2x4 foot sheet intended or 4x4?
No, it should, yeah. Well, I mean, you could put a single 4x4 on there, but I got 2 2x4 sheets on there.
Gotcha.
Again,
so
I made out of scrap lumber.
right. So so you're trying to solve this chain slack challenge. Is that what you're talking about there? Were you having any issues? No. Okay. I was getting sag in mine. So I've got this guy here, calling him Mordecai. He's the multi-beast essentially of
Frankenframe.
Frankenframe. There we go. Yeah, a lot of motors. So what I ended up doing, Casey, to get that keep the chain tension strong all the way around is I call it a 2x4 foot space, but I use it in the landscape orientation. So it's this space here. When I was orienting it in a portrait orientation for a 2x4 foot sheet, I was getting that chain sag and I couldn't get it right. But the moment I reoriented it to landscape, I was able to retain the chain tension at the top that I needed, or that we get with a standard in an XL frame.
Yeah.
So just some thoughts there too.
Yeah. So this one right here is just a 4x4 area. So there is no portrait or landscape mode. I mean, it's 4x4, right? With the idea that if I ever wanted to go back to a 4x8 sheet of plywood, I can just take 2 4x4 frames and put them together.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. I mean, I can have either or. I can have best of both worlds, right?
Awesome. Cool. And you said are you working on like a metal version of it too, or?
Yeah, I got the parts laid out. I'm talking to Ziltech to get the parts ordered, but I want to make it out of 2040 aluminum and the extruded aluminum. So the frame will be super lightweight, and I'll probably use a 1/2-inch backer board on it, 4x4 1/2-inch backer, and see how that goes. And if I like that, then yeah, that's it.
I would see if you think there's a way with those like extrusion connector pieces, if there's a way to keep the total length of any one piece at or below 4 feet, because that becomes, from a shipping standpoint, that becomes an oversized box. And so then the freight rates go through the roof, right? So if there's a way to retain the structural integrity with using shorter pieces, that would just be a thought there that I'd throw in, but I'm not sure if you considered it.
Yeah, there's only one thought process with that. Your beam on the top has to be at least 6 foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So it's a great want, but well, unless you figure out some way to connect 2 4-foot pieces together and to have an 8-foot top beam, that gives you more accuracy on a mini frame. But again, it comes up with the alignment thing, right? You can take 2 pieces of extruded aluminum, put them together, and you can put all the little marks,
those little channel slider and
yeah, but they're never straight, right? Even when you put it together and you tighten them up, I could put a straight edge. I have 12-foot straight edges. I put one of those on there, and it's got a slight bow in it. It's never straight. So it's like, unless you buy an 8-foot length, which you can't because they only ship up to 6-foot lengths and UPS and FedEx and everything, you're kind of stuck with what you got. Now, I did come up with a piece of C-channel, and C-channel, the very center of it holds 2040, right? Or so I was thinking if you had like a 3-foot piece of C-channel and you put 2 2040s in there and slid it in that channel, right? Then you can just put brackets along it, and then you got 2 sticking out like wings, but then they're not supported. It's like,
right.
Crap.
Well, but then you can also use some version of a mounting plate. If your bracket, I don't know if you're still planning to use the brackets, but if your bracket is right at the connection point there, and then we use 3 pieces. So like it's I don't know, like 3 2-foot pieces or something.
Yeah. So with this kit, like this right here, all of the screws in the kit that you get with the M2 are gone. All of the metal brackets are all gone. None of them are used. There's a lot of things. I was actually looking in my kit yesterday because I needed some extra parts. I have 2 M2s, so the rest of the people on here, they're wondering where I get all the parts. I have 2 M2s. So I have one set up, so I got all these extra parts, and I was actually taking these parts off of this. I'm like, well, I'm not using this anymore. I threw it back in the box. Now I got a big box of all these extra parts. So the reality is there's a lot of things I wouldn't have to use in the original kit. So it would, it's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Hey, out of curiosity, is there a need for the top beam?
What do you mean the need for the top beam?
Well, I mean, do you have to have a beam that goes all the way across the top, or
yeah,
can you just have 2 uprights that support the motors at the point that you need it?
As long as they are perfectly the same distance from the center, you're good. But like I said, the problem with that is the whole idea of this thing is that I got a deck and that top beam's attached to it. So when I pivot it out, that top beam is pivoted to the exact same angle. So the accuracy issues, by the way, when I did this, I ran the thing twice and I was within a millimeter of accuracy. I didn't have to keep running it over and over and over and dialing it in. It went right to 1 millimeter very quickly. And that's simply because everything's the same. Everything's connected to each other, right? Where with the old design, the top beam and the bottom beam, you're trying to measure out that angle, right? And you are connecting them to the same boards that are upright on the wall. But again, I want them to be able to pivot. And the whole idea of this is I can flip those boards up in the back, fold it up against the wall, and forget about it for a while. I don't have to, it doesn't take up any extra room. And that's one of the big things about MakerMade is that's why we buy them, right? They're A, the price, but B, they don't take up a 4x8 sheet of floor space in our shop, right? It's space saving. Well, this just makes it even more space saving because now you can fold it up flat against the wall whenever you're not using it. And you can see the way I have my shop laid out. I need every square inch I can get.
Space is a
Yeah.
premium sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Dustin, we've tried to brainstorm a lot of different ideas and stuff to try to get rid of the top beam, but it becomes really hard to make sure that it's exactly from center the same distance, you know, exactly 5 feet or exactly 6 feet from center, and then also making sure that they're exactly the same height with each other. Because if they're off a little bit, then that means the chain lengths are going to be off, and then that's going to give you all kinds of problems too. And it just the easiest way to do that is to just have one piece all the way across. That's just the same board. So that's where the thought behind having, you know, that top beam comes from. So you could absolutely have separate parts or just have the motors separate or something like that, but it just adds extra layers of complexity and things to make sure that it gets calculated in there. Because, you know, we've thought all kinds of stuff, try to, you know, how can we make something that folds, or, you know, and how could we make some different things that could maybe be more modular, but then it's all about it has to always be square with itself, and it creates a lot of difficulties trying to make sure that it's square with itself when you have different parts.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you know, from Casey's point of view, when he's designed such a small system, if you added, it looks like what, another foot, maybe 18 inches on the sides, that you just use those vertical boards. I'm kind of looking behind Casey at his frame there. If you just widen that out and just made the whole frame a box instead, you wouldn't have to have that upright there. And maybe that would save on shipping or anything else that you guys were talking about. Might be something to play around with sometime.
Yeah, you can, but then you'd have this whole sides of the boxes, a foot down this side and a foot down this side that you can't use. Because remember, the beams need to be
yeah.
in your cut piece because of the way the triangulation calculation works. It needs 3 points.
Yep.
So if the bottom is down here, it's exactly in line with that. According to if you put the calculation in, whenever you go to this bottom corner, if it's right under the motor, that's 0, 0. The triangulation calculation just goes berserk. It doesn't calculate right anymore. It stops. That's why when you put the 12-foot beam on and you get that extra 2 foot of reach, the calculation loves that. It's like, I can dial that in better. It can calculate better. You have more distance between your motors. So it gives you a more finite calculation.
Yep. Okay.
So anyway, folks, that was my crazy idea. And now I'm gonna try to build one out of extruded aluminum. And if you think about that, with the extruded aluminum, if anybody's ever built frames or anything with that stuff, when you put 2 pieces together and you put the little angle brackets on there, it makes it go to 90 degrees. So whenever I build my frame with my cross members, everything will be automatically tightened down and secured at 90 degrees. So you'll have a perfect box joint fit every time. So my frame should be perfectly square no matter what I do. No more wood screws, no more wood, no more nothing. It's all easy. That's
I'm excited to see it when you get it developed, for sure.
I was going to say, when you get that done, are you willing to share the parts list so we can price it out, or are you selling the frames?
I think, I don't know. I'm talking to Patrick now to see what we want to do. But the idea was to make sure that we could actually serve both sides, right? Some people want a 4x8, some people want a mini. But if you build a 4x4 mini, then you just need a way to clip the two mini frames together to make a 4x8 frame. This still works on a pivot system. So, you know, I don't know, it'd be nice to have a frame that's out of the box. I just grab a couple of Allen wrenches and I throw it together, and it's perfectly square, and it's that perfect 15-degree angle, right? No cutting, no drilling, no nothing, just an Allen wrench and a flat place to put everything together. That would be really nice.
I've been wanting to find a way to get to a frame like this since we started this company, and it's just never been able to be a thing. This is something that, like, I am so hopeful that this thing comes out the way it's looking like it's going to come out, because this is one of those perfect opportunities, like with Rue's camera, where I think we could see this thing on the website in a couple months or something. Like, we got to test it a few times but you know, in terms of like who's developing it, I feel pretty confident, right? That Casey's going to make this thing or put it through its paces better than anybody. So I'm hopeful that we can find a way to partner on this and make it financially viable for the customers, because I think there's a huge pinup demand for this, and a huge portion of the market that we currently have a tough time reaching, because we don't have an all-in-one solution like this, because they are fully just kitted products that you have to go put a lot of thought energy into it, right? And people just want it to do the thing. So this is that next step to it.
Yeah, and here's the beauty about it. With this one, if you have your metal frame designed and you could just hang it on the wall, think about a gantry CNC. People buy those and they assemble those, but then they still need to build a wood table, and that wood table needs to be flat. With this system, it doesn't matter anymore. Everything is straight out of the box. And even if you're, you know, there's a lot of people out there that start, you know, home-based businesses, making little things, you know, selling stuff on Etsy. You don't need to have a full woodworking shop to cut wood and everything else to build these massive frames. The other side is you're going to go to, these people can go to Lowe's and get 2x4 sheets of 1/2-inch plywood, throw them in the trunk of their car, and come home, and that's it. You're ready to rock and roll.
Exactly.
Simple,
Somebody doesn't have a truck.
Yep.
Yeah. The moment you say 8-foot beam, they're like, okay, well, that excludes me. Right.
Yeah,
but if you could throw all the parts in a Camry, that's a different story.
Yep.
100%.
Exactly. So we'll see. I just have, I'm hoping to have the design. Actually, I have the design done. I just have to get around to getting the parts from Ziltech and getting it assembled and everything there. And now, of course, we got Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so a lot of stuff all happening all at the same time.
Yeah, super cool. Thanks, Casey.
Yeah,
really excited to touch base tomorrow on that one.
So out of everybody that's on here, I'm just looking for thoughts and feedback. Would you have bought a pre-built frame if you had a chance when you bought your M2? If there was an option for an extruded aluminum frame that you can build and it would be perfectly square right out of the box?
I think I would have, especially if there was a little bit less of a calibration curve, you know, and things like that. I don't know if there's going to be any advantages there with having everything perfectly square and then maybe just only have to dial in the Z. But yeah, I certainly would have.
Yeah, you'll still, no matter what, you're always going to have to calibrate, right? Mm-hmm. But the biggest calibration component right now is on the XY on any M2 that you have. And that's because the thing is based off that triangulation calculation is based off the frame you built. Right. And nobody's perfect. Right. That's the crappy part. Top beam, you know, is it angled side to side? Yeah. Is it perfectly square?
But you know, with what you're saying though is that's going to go away. That's right. Going to go away. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is that just gets you up to speed that much quicker. Yeah. You know, yeah, I certainly would have. So
yeah.
I would have when I bought my original Maslow. And like what we're doing right now on this end, what I've been working on with this guy is to get to a place where in the future iterations of the next version of Makerverse, all the chains in the box will come with marked links on them. So you build your frame and then you hang from these, you build your frame to spec and then you hang your chains at exactly the points that we list. And that puts your sled right at center every time. And then you just jog it around once as an edge calibration. And then you're essentially good to go. You add Casey's like perfectly squared frame to that equation and take all the human element out of it. Then it's just like, put this together, hang this chain at this point, and you are essentially calibrated then. It's pre-calibration out the box, just about. or at least a pretty good pass at it out of the box with a little bit of fine tuning afterwards, right? So these two things put together are going to make just a world of difference for the customer experience out of the box.
Yeah.
So,
well, y'all, we're about out of time, but I see Marcel, you just joined, and we're talking about different frame designs and stuff. Do you have any questions or anything that we can help you with?
I'm just, I just got it out of the box and I just built the frame and I'm calibrating now. And I'm just running into the sort of regular issues, I guess, of figuring out how to calibrate the Z and all those kinds of things. But yeah, you know, I'm excited to get started with it and learn how to get it going.
have you used Two Tankards videos yet, Marcel?
Which one is that?
Two Tankards, Casey's?
I have not, but I will definitely put that on the list.
On YouTube.
Yeah, so that Z-axis video that we were talking about earlier, Dustin put it in the chat, if you want to see it in the chat there. And then you can help with the Z-axis. But is there anything else that's giving you trouble with the calibration?
Again, I just got it out of the box and I just got it all built up. So I'm sure I will have more issues with the calibration. But yeah, I guess I'll be back next week then.
Hey, that's why we're here. Yeah. So you can come, we'll be here every week. And then you can also contact us too. You can go at support@MakerMade, and we can help you get you going there too. And also the owners group and the forum as well if you need some help. So anyway, you can get a hold of us. We're here to help you.
Great.
Hey,
Great. Thank you.
I got a quick question for Patrick. I think behind you on your frame, your router was a DeWalt. Which one is that? Is that the 611?
Yeah, so we got a 611 there.
Okay.
We got a Kita here. Over here, we got we've also got the brushless, big brushless guy here. Basically the equivalent of the rigid. Yeah.
That's the big DeWalt, yeah.
Yeah, this guy's a monster, but he's quiet. So
on the 611, what is your speeds that you set the router to when you're cutting?
Yeah. If I'm not using a straight, if I'm not cutting resin, then I usually keep it at about 5.5. Maybe I'll drop down to 4.5 sometimes. But I'm doing 3/4 ply with a 1/4-inch bit. So probably about 5.5. And if I'm going like a straight bit, I'll drop that down really, really low.
Down to like a 3?
3 or 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now I'm testing out this new bit that we've got that we're going to be launching on the site. It's one of those combo bits. It's a compression plus 90-degree V-tip. Just testing to see how well that does when it comes to like engraving first and then cutting out the outside afterwards. So I ran out of time on this project, but yeah, trying to see if we can get it to a place where we can include bits that don't require swaps. Obviously there's challenges when it comes to tabbing when you're using a V-bit, and you'd have to clear out a lot more of your waste board than if you're using an end mill. But all that being said, in order to preserve the integrity of a, $80 sheet of birch ply and not swap a bit, sometimes that ends up being a helpful solution. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Great. All right, everybody. Well, we have any last questions? This was great. Thanks a lot, Casey, for explaining everything and for the feedback there. Bob, good luck getting your Z-axis calibrated, and Marcel and Jan, y'all too. And we'll see y'all next week.
Yeah. Have a great week.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
See y'all.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Drew.